Yes, we are now, I think, live already. I think you can start sharing, Rose.
Okay.
And in the meantime, I will ask all the speakers to mute your microphones for now. We can see your screen, Rose.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So should I start? Are we gonna wait for some people, or do we start now?
The participants are joining, but I think we can start already. We have now 24 participants and growing, so I think
Okay.
we can start.
All right. All right. Let's start. So, welcome everybody. Thank you all for coming to this event. So today's webinar is the first in the short circuit webinar series. And today we will focus on new battery regulation versus reverse logistics. I am Rose Gregorio, Communication Dissemination and Exploitation Officer from EIT Urban Mobility. And I'm also the Communication and Dissemination Work Package Leader of the BatteReverse project. So I want to first start with giving everyone an overview of what to expect for today. So I will be giving an introduction to the BatteReverse project, and then my colleague Piotr will be giving a summary of the new batteries regulation measures relevant to reverse logistics. And then we will have a panel discussion with our invited experts, and they are Dr. Nuria Gonzales-Garcia from Batteries, Dr. Farouk Tedjar from TES, Nicolas Jacquier from Mobilize, Vincent Deluc from Renault Group, Axel Wimby from Clean Systems, and Tobias Schreiber from NORMA Law. Make sure to save your questions for later because we will have a session just for the Q&A. And then we will give everyone time to talk and network with fellow participants. So we hope you enjoy that one. So who is BatteReverse? Who are we and what do we do? Well, first, we are 11 partners from 6 EU member states. We are made up of research and technology institutes, leading industrial enterprises, innovative SMEs, and innovation actors working together. So we are a research and innovation project that is developing the technologies, processes, and partnerships necessary to build a reverse logistics value chain for EV batteries. So we have 4 main innovations that we are working on. And so they are the battery assessment. We are improving battery assessment, improving acoustic testing, and machine learning algorithms for faster and more precise battery discharge and first diagnosis, which will, of course, help us in speeding up the decision making when deciding if a battery is waste or if it's going to second life. We're also improving safety packaging, especially for transportation, in order to minimize thermal runaway risks. We are also improving automated dismantling. As you know, when we dismantle and sort battery components, there are risks involved. So we are working on improving how people work with machines or robots in order to dismantle the battery packs. And we are also developing a battery data space and it will have standardized labeling and battery passport to streamline battery identification and data sharing. So what have we done so far? Our project started in May of this year, so it's been about 7 months, and we've kept ourselves busy. We have published circular business cases. We interviewed key stakeholders dealing with repurposing or recycling of batteries. And we interviewed them to know about their processes and what they're doing. So I think this is quite interesting for those who want to understand how stakeholders are dealing with end-of-life batteries. So we have already published business cases from TESS, from Batteries, from Skoda, and from BIB batteries. So these are all available on our website, and they're quite popular. So I encourage you to take a look at them to understand how key stakeholders deal with end-of-life batteries. We have also done facility visits. We have so far visited TESS, batteries, and also the research laboratory of our partners at Euricat, who are working on the automated dismantling. So, of course, when we visit facilities, we learn more about what they're doing, and this feeds into our technical development plan and all the things that we are doing in order to improve reverse logistics. We have also mapped the key stakeholders in Europe with regards to battery reverse logistics. We have over 150 stakeholders that we put on this map. I highly encourage you to check this out. We have battery OEMs, EV OEMs, dismantlers, many different stakeholders. They are available on our website. And if you see that you are a key stakeholder and you are not included on this map, you can let us know and we will be happy to add you to the map. I also want to point out that we do have a premium version of this map that is available on this community. And this map will allow you to network directly with the stakeholders on the map. Okay, and then we have also received a delivery of Skoda battery packs, which will help us work on our research on the assessment of battery packs. And we also have organized our first stakeholder advisory board workshop in September of this year, where we invited members of our stakeholder advisory board to engage with partners and talk to us, give us their insights and perspectives. And this, of course, is very important because it helps us understand the issues and challenges of industry. And this has also helped us improve and refine our technical development plan. We have also created a digital twin of the as-is model of the current reverse logistic process of the stakeholders today. And this will help us experiment virtually with other parameters that will help us improve the processes for the future. So who are in our stakeholder advisory board? We have Battery Pass, Kling Systems, Febel Auto, Umicore, TÜV Süd, Circulion, and MOBA. So we are also actively recruiting more stakeholder advisory board members because we want to have a more comprehensive view of the needs and challenges of industry. So the BatteReverse community. So you are in this webinar because you have joined the community. So I highly encourage you not to stop at just joining this webinar or other webinars because we have many spaces where you can discuss your issues or challenges with regards to battery reverse logistics. Our members are composed of experts, enthusiasts, researchers, and I think that it is a very nice community to exchange best practices and gain new insights. So again, I highly encourage you to engage with us here. So with that, I will end my presentation and I will hand you over to my colleague Piotr, who will talk about the new batteries regulation.
Thank you, Rose. Let me now share my screen. Okay, I think now you should be able to see. We are still experimenting a bit with this platform. This is the first event, as Rose said, of this series. So we count on your understanding, and we're curious also about your feedback. And first of all, I'm really happy to see so many of you joining this webinar. we've gathered quite a nice selection of experts to join the panel discussion. And I'm really thrilled to first give some content input for this discussion. My name is Piotr Grudzień. I'm an innovation consultant for battery circularity topics at Bax & Company. And in the project, in the BatteReverse project, we are responsible for mapping the key stakeholders, building the community, and also analyzing circular business models. And last activity is related to also ensuring that the project developments are compliant with the new regulations. And in this specific case, we're looking into the new measures of the regulation that was published this year. You may be quite well aware of this regulation, but before we get we make a deep dive into the measures, I would like to just show you one slide which should explain why it's such a complex issue. As part of the project, we mapped the reverse logistics processes, and on this map you can see how many various stakeholders are involved in these processes. And we believe that since this area is very dynamic, we need to discuss case by case how these also new regulations are influencing various business cases and processes, because reverse logistics is not really only, for example, recycling. These are all the processes that happen before the recycling. So, for example, when the battery has to be transported from the repair workshop to either the repurposer or the pretreatment, when the battery has to be dismantled, when it has to be tested, its state of health. And the new battery regulation, which was published by the European Commission, actually has quite many measures which may strongly influence how these processes will be done. There are many of measures in the new regulation. However, we believe that there are 4 topics that deserve our main attention in terms of the end of first life of batteries. First is the topic of access to the BMS and state of health information. Then the topic of reuse, repurposing, and also recycling, since the regulation explains a bit better than the last one how these processes should be done. The other topic is the extended producer responsibility, and related to it, the producer responsibility organizations. And the last one, but not least, the battery passport, which aims to connect all stakeholders, hopefully providing useful information. Now, I will go one by one through these main topics before we get into the discussion with our experts. Let's start with the BMS data access. The Article 14 of the new regulation implements a measure saying that from August 2024, every user of the battery, every owner of the battery, but also the economic operators working on behalf of the owner, they should have access to the data from the battery management system. What kind of data is this? For example, the data about the state of health. And this is something new. Some questions related to this measure is, for example, how in practice can OEMs share this info while protecting the IP rights, which is a very important topic from the perspective of manufacturers. And then also, for example, would this information be shared automatically or by request? Let's hope we can clarify these questions together with the experts. Related to this article, the Annex 7 of the batteries regulation explains the types of data which will have to be given access to. For electric vehicle batteries, the data which is mentioned is the state of certified energy. It's something that may not be very familiar to all of you because we are maybe used more to the term state of health. However, this is the term which was, as far as I know, was introduced by the United Nations Global Technical Regulation on e-vehicle battery durability for electrified vehicles. And the state of certified energy, it refers to a percentage of the certified energy, battery energy, or electric range remaining at given point in time. And in the case of battery regulation, this metric was selected for the electric vehicle batteries. For stationary storage systems, there are several data points which are mentioned, such as remaining capacity, remaining power capability, round-trip efficiency, ohmic resistance, and self-discharging rates. And these are some data which will have to be shared in one way or another by the OEMs. And moving on to the topic of reuse and repurposing, finally, the new regulation explains the definitions, defines what the reuse and repurposing are, because I think in various discussions these terms are mixed, and I think it's important to first see what they really mean. So according to the regulation, the preparation for repurposing is a process by which a waste battery is prepared that it can be used for a different purpose. So for preparation for repurposing, we are talking about the waste batteries. For repurposing, we are talking about a battery which is not a waste battery, so that wasn't given a waste status, while remanufacturing is a process which gives the battery, brings the battery back to its sort of original state. By original state is meant the state of health of about 90% of the original capacity, and that every individual cell doesn't differ more than 3% between other cells. So you can say that it's a sort of an extreme case of reuse, where you take the batteries, you repair them, and you put them together back to, for example, a vehicle. While the reuse definition is given in the previous directive, and by the reuse it means checking, cleaning, or repairing all the recovery operations by which products have become waste are prepared so that they can be reused without any other pre-processing. And with these definitions, there we can see what other articles refer to reuse and repurposing. The Article 73 explains what has to be done in order to make a waste battery a new product. So in some cases, the battery becomes waste. We can discuss it with our experts when does it happen. But from the perspective of a repurposer or a recycler, they may want to give it again as a non-waste status. And in such case, 3 conditions have to be met. An evidence of state of health evaluation has to be given. Then also an evidence of appropriate protection against damage during transportation. And also this new status has to be confirmed by some sort of a contract between the parties. It's interesting here how these requirements differ from current practices, and we can discuss that also with our partners. Then another article which is relevant is Article 45. Here it explains what are the obligations of the economic operators that place second life batteries on the market. And it seems that basically the obligations of these second life providers are basically the same as if it would be a new battery entering the market. So that can be assumed, but I think more details can be given by also by our experts. Now I think we can move on to the extended producer responsibility. This responsibility is provided in is explained in Article 756, and it's based on the previous directive from 2008. Every producer or every economic operator puts the battery on the market has to bear costs that are related to its management at the end of life. These costs are explained in the same article. These costs are, for example, the cost of separate collection of batteries and their transport, costs of carrying out compositional surveying, providing information on prevention and management of waste batteries, and also cost of data gathering and reporting to authorities. An interesting article here is a paragraph 5 of this article, which explains that if you give the battery second life, then between the first life producer and second life producer, there can be a business agreement how to divide the costs for the extended producer responsibility. How this could work in practice, maybe also we can leave it for our panel discussion. And the last topic is the battery passport topic. Probably you've heard quite a lot of it about it. Maybe what's important to highlight here that there are two types of battery information that will be included in the battery passport from February 2027. One type of information is per battery model, and this is, let's say, the non-dynamic information, the static information that is related to the battery, let's say, model or type, while there is also a different type of information which is dynamic per individual battery. And in this case, in the individual batteries, there has to be information about, for example, state of health, like we explained before, the status of the battery defined as original, repurposed, reused, or waste, and information about the number of charging and discharging cycles. Some static information which are interesting for reverse logistics are the information about the dismantling. And here, probably for recyclers, it's the most relevant issue, how to dismantle the batteries in a safely manner, what type of equipment is needed, and what is the composition. And I think this was quite a heavy content, 10 minutes. And now we will have much more time to also go one by one through these measures. But before we dive into the discussion, we would like to welcome you to some more interactive activity to scan this QR code and answer what, in your opinion, to what extent these measures that I just presented will impact the reverse logistics. So we welcome you to scan this code with your phone, and we can also share the link on the chat. Let me check if I can do that now. Or you can also write menti.com and use the code which is above. Let's wait 20 more seconds or 30. Okay. 10 more seconds. If you haven't voted, please do so now. Maybe I shouldn't have presented the results live because maybe there is some bias. We can see that the results average out a bit. But let's say the most important ones are the rules, seem to be the rules for repurposing, closely followed by the access to BMS and extended producer responsibility. And with these results, I would like to kick off the next part of our meeting. And I'm really happy to invite our speakers from the industry, but also law firms. So I would welcome first Dr. Nuria Gonzales-Garcia from BatteReverse and NPS. Could you briefly introduce yourself and say what BatteReverse does in relation to BatteReverse logistics?
Well, thank you for inviting and having us in this really, I mean, you already said a lot of questions, which I hope we can go deep enough. So my name is Nuria Gonzalez and I work as Head of Research and Technology at BatteReverse. BatteReverse is a company that sits in Berlin that was founded in 2018 with the purpose of giving electric vehicle batteries, discarded electric vehicle batteries, a second life. So we have specialized in repurposing, if we must follow the new names, in converting those discarded batteries into mobile power solutions. So our focus is on the delivering off-grid solutions, going beyond stationary purposes. We have already an agreement with Renault. Renault is our battery providers, and most of the points that the new battery regulation is addressing, we were discovering them when we started the contract with Renault, because this was quite a pioneer agreement. And I'm happy to share my knowledge on this battery regulation, and actually I'm very glad to listen to the other experts.
Thank you very much, Nuria. And now Dr. Farouk Tedjar from TESS, a recycler. Welcome.
Thank you, Piotr. Thank you very much for the invitation and allow us to present TESS. I am the Group Chief Scientific Officer, and I was the first founder of the first portable battery recycling in Europe in '98, and in alkaline batteries, and after in 2008 in lithium primary and lithium secondary batteries. We disseminate our technology. Let's start with Spain, in Madrid, in Spain, to the company named Envirobat. United States, Michigan, with a joint venture between General Motors and Battery Solution. In UK, to the group of Ecobat, Poland, and Singapore. So we have our first patent in lithium ion in 2008. And we received the first protocol and the first prototype from Renault, which was one of the first to provide us EV batteries in 2011 in France. In the meantime, we received A123 batteries delivered to General Motors in the United States. So we start very, very early on touching the EV battery. Today, we have disseminated the technology within the TESS group, who buy Refupil, and we have a facility, full hydrometallurgy, the first one in my knowledge, to go until the end, from the scrap batteries to the lithium, and recycling the water in closed loop in Singapore. Next one in Europe will be in Rotterdam, and we have other sites. But what is very interesting for the continuation of our French site, it was decided by the new shareholder, which is SK Innovation, third battery producer in Korea, that France, we are very happy with, very proud with this decision, will be the worldwide R&D development for the group. So we are very happy to be part of this project, and we are part to other 4 projects in ACE 2020.
Thank you very much, Farouk. Thank you for the introduction. And now we'll move on to Nicolas Jacquier from Mobilize.
Thanks. First things first, thanks a lot for making this event and to allow us to share all of our knowledge and skills from this very interesting segment market, which is energy storage. I'm working at Mobilize Energy Storage as the head of operations. Mobilize is part of Renault Group. Is a new business unit dedicated on energy storage solution. Long story short, we are using our long historic experience on EVs, and we are giving a second life batteries from the automotive cycle for repurpose in energy storage solution. So we got a large range of battery from the Zoe, which was one of the first EVs of Renault, to Kangoo and to other batteries. And we test them. We're making sure that before selling every batteries on pack or modules levels to our B2B customers, we deliver the best experience as possible. Our DNA is part also of safety at Renault and Mobilize. We are making sure that every investment on the human and financial side is worth and making sure that we can deliver a safe product and enable the customer to have the best experience as possible. My goals and my mission at Mobilize is to make sure that we have the right supply at the right moment and the best supply chain strategies to reduce or impact on the environment, and we can have the best flow as possible. And I'm very happy to be here today to share it with you.
Thank you very much, Nicolas. Axel Wimby, welcome.
Thank you very much, and thank you so much for having us on for this panel. It's an honor to be called an expert. That's not every day. My name is Axel. I'm from Clean Systems. My current role as a supply chain manager covers a lot of areas within operations and how we handle the supply chain and how we work internally as well. Clean, as I assume most of the audience and the panel here, working toward enabling a circularity for batteries. And our response to that is to trying to find solutions and manage for batteries to move from one application to another. And that could either be done through active trading, where Clean acts as a buyer and a seller for second life batteries. It could also mean that we facilitate other trades with our platform that we built in-house, dedicated for supporting trades of batteries, or basically outsource different components that is needed to our customers and friends. And an example here could be coordinating logistics, which could be sort of a hassle sometimes for dangerous goods and batteries. And I'm hoping I could provide some view on what we are seeing with the various different things that we do. We often wear different hats and need to have different roles and meet different people. So maybe I can bring some insight in what we're seeing on the market.
Great. Thank you very much, Axel. And last but not least, we are lucky to also have some lawyer in the team. Welcome, Tobias.
I think you made a great effort. You could be hired here at NORMA Law, which is a one-stop shop in Sweden, a law firm. And I mainly work with compliance issues and EU law questions, and have focused on EPR mainly. As in we can see through the EU, there's a widespread legislation going on with EPR in many areas, not only in the battery industry, but also the textile industry and the packaging industry. And that's where I entered the arena, and I have learned a lot about batteries lately. And it's an exciting subject, and electrification is going on, especially here in Gothenburg with Volvo and Nova Energy and everything happening.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Tobias. As you see, we've gathered quite a heterogeneous team. We have different stakeholders. So let's get to it. Just remember for the participants that you can also already ask questions on chat if you have some. Then you can also react on others' questions. In the end, during the Q&A, we will pick these questions and ask and help you also join and ask these questions to our experts. And now, without further ado, let's get back to where we started. I think first we can start with the OEM perspective, and I think it would be interesting to hear how, from you, Nicolas, how you see this new regulation, new measure on giving the access to the BMS, because, well, if you do repurposing within Renault, then you don't have this issue because you're not sharing this data with people outside. But what if you would have to do that? Have you discussed this internally?
Well, that's a great question. Frankly speaking, we didn't have the chance yet to discuss that internally about the potential consequences. For me, having the visibility on the battery status and data is definitely key. We need to speak with data to get to know what exactly is the level of health of the battery. But unfortunately, at this day, I don't have much information about the potential consequences. I think what I can share with all of you today is that at Renault Group, and especially at Mobilize, we put a high focus and attention to the quality of the data. Once we propose a battery to our customers, to our lead or historic customers, we cross-check 2 times, 10 times the data, because having a battery on the shelf for 10 years or for 5 years, as we are selling EV batteries since almost decades now, the battery will have an impact on the quality on the data. So every time we are selling or proposing a battery to our customers, we add and we propose a service to see what is the latest data of the battery. So we got a specific partners who check again. We have the battery of test, and like that we can make sure that we can have a latest and up-to-date data before shipping the battery to our customers. So we don't ship any batteries if it's not been tested the current year, just to make sure we have a great flow and great quality of the data for our customers.
So in your case, you use both internal testing and also some external confirmation of that?
I mean, it's a direct partner, so that are private. But we share the result to our customers. They deserve to have the information of the battery. So we got a battery test report after this test, which is focused on both quality and technical aspects. There is picture before and after the test, and we got a batch of checklist of tests. And as I say, it's a service, so the customer we have some cost on that, but thanks to that, they will have the opportunity to have a fresh and updated information and to have a report of the battery.
And maybe let's take a look from the other perspective, from the perspective of the repurposer. I would like to ask Nuria, how does it look like from your side? Because you are sourcing batteries from the OEM, and I understand that for you it's important to have this reliable confirmation about the state of health. Can you imagine? How do you imagine getting this information, for example, not from the OEM but from a different source, like from a battery, from a car dismantler, let's say?
Yeah, I mean, as I was mentioning, our partner for second life batteries is Renault. So we have kind of an industrial agreement where all these aspects are defined. So there's not an external provider, but everything happens between us. And that was what we decided on, which data needs to be checked and which data is shared with us. And then we agreed on the quality of the batteries we are receiving, and that was the framework. But that's a one-on-one discussion, and that's a one-on-one agreement. We don't know if with other partners will be the same, will be different. And of course, having kind of standard houses determining a standard definition of SOH, because if we start to go that road, maybe the first thing we need to agree is how we measure SOH. I mean, what is the standard way to determine what is the battery status? Are we focusing on exclusively on SOH capacity? Do we include resistance? Because apparently the regulation has left out resistance for the EV batteries, for instance, right? So that would be the first thing. Then if there is a standard house certifying all that data, then I think it becomes really crucial that the OEM opens that data to those certification houses, because otherwise it's just a test that on a specific moment, right? I mean, does this car come from an accident? Does this car come from, I don't know, a specific event that is threatening the safety of the battery? So, I mean, we definitely see an opportunity there, and we would be happy to have something like this. I think the processes and also the parameters need to be standardized, and I'm not sure how far this regulation has gone in this regard.
Yeah, that's a good point. As you can see right now, it's just this acronym of State of Certified Energy. So it doesn't seem to be very well defined at the moment, but maybe it would be also interesting to get some perspective from Axel Wimby from Clink Systems, because I understand that to some extent you are also helping to make sure that this information, when you are trading the batteries, that this information about the state of health is also reliable. So what's your approach to doing this?
First of all, I can say I fully agree with previous speakers that it would be superb to have something that is standardized. And for me, the first step would be to standardize how do you actually measuring state of health, what is that, and so on. And we're battling. I mean, we don't have a one-to-one relationship. We have 100 to 100 maybe, working a lot with dismantlers. And looking just the past 3 months, we can see a huge increase in knowledge and tools available on the market and so on. So what we are, where I believe the market is going is that if we take dismantler as a good example, because that's very fragmented across the Nordics, is that a few single tools that either could be reading BMS data straight away, that they reverse engineer it, or reading it from the car, becomes crucial for enabling any deals. So if you have some sort of data and that you motivate how you measure it, so the off-taker or the buyer of the battery then can read it and have the report and understand what did we actually measuring.
So I understand that one conclusion here from this point is that still there would be a need for some sort of certification houses that would show how exactly to do these measurements. Probably there should be some big name backing this certification scheme to so that more players can use that. Okay, that's quite curious, and I think maybe we can move on from this topic to the next one, so that we still have time for all topics. And let's talk about the waste batteries and not waste batteries. It's a bit difficult to interpret this information, but I think probably it will be easiest to ask the guy with probably the biggest experience of us all. So Farouk, what is a waste battery in your perception? Because you get mostly waste batteries, right, to your facility.
Yeah. I think I'm the dinosaur of recycling, so I can give you just my witness. Between 2017, I have a letter from a lawyer of battery supplier who told me, we send you the batteries because it's waste. We don't allow you to use anything, even for the handicapped people, for free. And every battery entering on the site of recycling must be converted to non-waste material. This means that it's shredded and treated, okay? This company now is claiming in the website that they are for the second life, etc. Everything changing in life. So there is three problems. The battery regulation seems to be an island to solve all the problem, okay? However, they totally forget that beside the battery regulation, there is the status of the waste. And when you have some lime, calcium hydroxide, which is exactly similar to the calcium hydroxide you obtain in the mine, there is 1 year and a half and a lot of money from the expert and the lawyer and the lobby cabinet to convert the lime as exit from waste status. So it's not just voltage and amps to convert the batteries from waste to product. Otherwise, the battery never comes. This is the first problem. The second problem is the tracking, because beside the battery regulation, the waste regulation of the authorized site need to write the balance between what enter and what exit, and you cannot enter the product as it is and the exit as it is not allowed. So there is a modification of battery directive, the waste treatment site and the waste directive to adapt with the second life of the batteries. This is the first point. The second point, which is more sensitive, and I speak under the control of the lawyer, and we are very, very happy that you take this initiative. Waste is a final product. You send it to one site who has to treat this waste to convert it to material. This means that any waste must be either stabilized and landfill, which is eliminated from the Directive 2006, or converted. And then when it's converted, I'll give you an example. You just take a computer, you take the screen, you take the PCB board, and you take the plastic, and there are three fractions, and you track the fraction where they go, who buy this, or you burn, or you dump, and then the computer is completely converted, and the responsibility of the owner, if there is any case, any accident or incident, is out of the owner, because the waste is transformed. If you send the batteries and the site of the recycling or evaluation and modification, etc., is commercializing these batteries, and there is incident, who is responsible? Is it the owner, the original owner of the waste, or is the guy who introduced some unit operation to change the batteries, but the battery is still, the cells are still the same, the battery is still tracked from the supplier? I see that there is one article speaking about sharing the finance, which is already a good point, but there is now article speaking about sharing the responsibility or unload the original owner by its responsibility and transfer the responsibility to the recycling site. This is totally empty.
And here, may I ask also Nicolas to bring some perspective from the OEM, because I understand that some of the batteries that end up at your facility, you still send to recycling without giving second life for various reasons. So how do you see, you know, imagine that your batteries, they end up at the recycler, and then still the recycler would like to reuse them because they dismantle the pack. Let's say they are able to assess the modules or even cells, and they would like to use some of them. So how do you think this process could work like?
So if you agree, before maybe I will explain how we deal with that currently. I'm currently working also, one side of my job is dedicated on recycling also. So currently, so we got a specific and a strict list that which allows to launch the battery for repurposing or for recycling. So once the battery went through this strict checklist and confirmed that she must go for recycling or for repurposing, in that case for recycling, we track and chase until the certificate of recycling. We don't close the case, we don't close the discussion with our recycler until the certificate of recycling. So this is for us very important to track and chase the battery, everyone, until the certificate of recycling. Delivering a battery to a recycler that we trust and love because thanks to them we can close the loop and have a circular approach. But it is also our mission to go until the end. So to reply to your questions about that, it's a good one. No one already asked it to me, so we try to briefly answer to you. I think it's going so fast, and I don't think that it could work because OEM will have and will must to reuse X% of our batteries for building new batteries. So it will be a mission and one of the top priorities for an OEM and for, in that case, Renault, to track and chase their battery until and after the recycling to reuse their components for building new batteries, because without that, we know that OEM will have very important penalties, and also it is our missions to go until the end and to have a circular approach. That's why Renault Group built a new brand called The Future is Neutral, and they are working and focusing on circular economy and to supply, to have the best sourcing as possible, and to make sure that we can reuse a battery for new batteries. So it's already part of our scope, and we already have a team built and working on that to make sure that we can have the best circular activity on that. So we will not allow our recycler to reuse it, as we will have to do it for the government and also for the environment impact.
Do you understand correctly in this case that you would never like the Article 73 to be used, or maybe more players wouldn't? Because if we make something a waste, it doesn't make sense to give it back the status of a product. Do I understand correctly that this is not also? I'm asking other people among our speakers. Is it a preferred situation that it's better to first make sure that something can be reused, and if not, then for good it becomes waste because of this complexity?
Okay, so our goal currently is to make sure that we can reuse as much as possible a battery. If the battery cannot be reused, we are doing our best to do the repurposing. What we see is that currently in the past, we were saying that batteries should stay in the car for 12 to 15 years. Now we see that the battery should stay in the car for 16 to 18 years. So what we are doing is to make sure that we can keep the battery on the first cycle on the car as long as possible. So we reuse, we rebuild the battery, and then we do our best to put the battery in the second life, repurposing. So we can divide by 2 the environment impact. And then at the end, that's why we want to keep the tracking of the battery. We put them to recycling. So our goal is to make sure that recycling should be the latest stage of the battery, so we can give all the chances of the battery to be reused and to divide their environment impacts when they're done.
So basically following the waste hierarchy, right?
Exactly. And that's why at Flins, if I may, that's why at Flins, one of our main factory in France, in the north, we are doing and we are creating the refactoring. So we want to reuse and rework all components and the batteries as part of them as much as possible. So one car with the battery can have 10 or 20 drivers. And then when this is done, we move to repurposing. So for the longest journey as possible, and then we move to recycling, to reuse for new batteries.
Yeah. Thank you, Nicolas. I think Axel, you had briefly your hand raised. Would you like to speak first, and then Nuria?
Yes, please. So maybe back to your question there with introducing, the step that if you take out the battery, it's going to go to waste. And if you look at especially on the EV market with the supply chain, with the Renault selling the car is put on the market, and some of them will inevitably end up at the dismantler. And what I'm worried about is that if once the car and then, of course, the battery reaches a dismantler, they will select sort of like the path of least resistance. So either they can take it out, prepare it for second life, become the producer and enabling circularity. The other option for me would be to consider it as waste, as a waste battery, a red one, and then maybe call Renault again and say, this is your problem, please take care of it, which of course will be a hindrance for circularity because it will be very costly for big OEMs to collect all these batteries across Europe, and also just simply ship a perfectly good battery as waste, which might be some problems according to us.
Thanks, Axel, for this perspective. What do you think, Nuria, on this?
I wanted to come back to what the legislation says, which is at which point a battery stops being a waste and becomes qualified, or I don't know the exact word they use. And we have a lawyer in the room. I would love to hear him because this kind of language, I struggle often as a scientist. But in my point of view, they are trying to facilitate the transportation, and that's my feeling behind here. Because when the battery is considered waste, goes to another legislation for transportation. And I believe that they are trying to make sure that there is an assessment, and this is why they say this evidence of state of health. There is an assessment for the battery, and when this assessment is gone and you fulfill these qualification parameters, the battery is not anymore waste and can be probably transported more easily within the European Union. But that's my interpretation. I would love to hear the lawyer here, really.
Well, Tobias, then I think you're called to the board.
Well, the difficulties with this is that the Commission is empowered to, you can say, do some supplement legislation regarding the end of waste criteria. But we also have the end of waste criteria already in the waste directive, provided in Article 6 of the directive. But this is more a general scope, and it basically says that like a substance or object, this needs to be used for specific purposes. So market demand exists for the subject. So there's, until the Commission comes with the supplementing legislation, is still some unclarity regarding the end of waste criteria. And I'm subscribing at a lot of newsletters following when this sort of supplementing legislation will take place. But for now, it's Article 73 of the battery regulation and Article 6 of the waste directive you can turn to get some guidance on the questions.
Thank you, Tobias. And since you are already having the voice, I would like to ask you about the extended producer responsibility, because I know that you recently committed an article with Axel on this topic. Can you explain a bit how the EPR works now, maybe on some cases that you know, and also how it's going to change?
Well, the purpose of the EPR is basically to shift the responsibility from the state to the private sector regarding like the organizational economic burden of collecting and recycling waste. So with regard to batteries, this mechanism has already been put in place through the battery directive. But the regulation takes this a step further, as the regulation is intended to generate like further harmonization and regarding the quality of the waste management service across the union. So it's important for entities with different roles in the supply chain to be aware of that from now on, it's not simply what you could commonly say is the producer of the original battery that becomes subject to EPR, but also economic operators, inter alia like dismantlers, who make available on the market for the first time a battery that has been subject to preparation for reuse, preparation for repurposing, or remanufacturing operations. So what you can say, a revived battery. In these cases, the economic operators need to register to a competent authority in every member state. Every member state it puts a battery on the market, so to say. And simply put, it means that it is the economic operator that bears the financial and organizational responsibility for the management of the revived battery. But in reality, in practice, this is like handled by producer responsibility organizations in exchange for a fee. So it's a collective handling the organizational economical burden. I don't know, I can go on. In Sweden, there are 4 main actors handling this sort of questions depending on which sort of battery. If it's a portable battery, or if it's a car battery, or an SLI battery.
Mm-hmm. And how these EPR can be solved in these specific cases where the repurposer takes over the battery, because the regulation is quite clear that then the repurposer is the one that takes the responsibility. But how these how these can be solved between the parties? Maybe Axel, you are in the best place to discuss this because you are in the middle.
But maybe I could test Tobias, because we have the luxury of having Tobias working with us. So do you have a first response to that?
Well, the thing is, you have the economic operator that you can say revives the battery becomes automatically responsible for the economic and organizational mechanism. So they need to be registered in every member state. But this is easily done by like just becoming a part of a producer responsibility organization, paying a fee. It has worked in many other markets, as the packaging market or the plastic market and stuff, for ages. So that's the thing you do. The difficulties become when the economic scheme, and that's part of the agreement. That's when I come in, basically. And that's how to share the economic burden between the different actors on the market. And then the regulation is pretty clear, as it states that before on in the battery directive, it was not that clear. It was more of a free-for-all situation, it seemed like. But now you can say the regulation provides that the scheme should be fair based on the management and of the waste. It's provided in Article 56.5, I think.
And maybe to put a sort of market perspective on this, overall, we really welcome this directive. As Tobias says, now we're starting to get more clarity into this amazing world that we are operating within. It's very clear that there are a lot of uncertainties on the market, and we are meeting companies that have barely any action plan regarding to producer responsibilities or maybe knowledge. We see some parties who's trying to enforce certain contract that is strictly against what we have here, and of course the companies to do it really well. So to my answer to on what's happening today, it's very, very a wide range of practices.
Mm-hmm. And is it maybe also getting some perspective from the OEM, Nicolas? Is it for you? Do you already have some experience with sharing these costs and sharing the EPR? Do you have some good practices for this? I think Nicolas is no longer with us. That's I think we lost him, but that's okay. Maybe Nuria, I understand that. Well, you just the OEMs are happy to give it to you, and then you are responsible. Do you have any ideas how this could work in the future?
I mean, the agreement we have with Renault is just it comes to us. They don't give it to us. They change this verb. The verb is they sell it to us. And in this price that we have agreed, probably all these different aspects are included, like the assessment, the transportation, the EPR, etc. So everything is here included. How this will be in the future? At least there will be a reference, and that's what the battery regulation does, right? Because right now is the wild, wild west. Everybody does what it can, and you can't really fight or put a lot of pressure because there is no regulation behind yet. At least this establishes a standard, again, going to standards, framework in which you can refer when you start negotiations. Of course, some aspects are open, but this is up to the business. I don't think the regulation needs to regulate everything, right? I think Link was mentioning that, right? I mean, it's great. It sets some clarity. It gives you a baseline, and from here you can build your own business case.
Makes sense. Yeah, thanks for your also perspective on this. And since we're a bit running out of time for this part, and I still want to give some time for questions from the audience. To finalize, I would just like to ask you for a quick thought on how, in your perspective, the battery passport could make your lives easier in your business. Maybe starting with Farouk. What kind of information do you think would make your life easier as a recycler?
I think all the information imposed by the battery passport are more relevant to the producer and the end user and the refurbishing, etc. And in my opinion, for the recycler, the risk, the composition are totally sufficient, because before some MSDS we received in 2010, 11, etc. as prototype, there is no indication on the risk. So today, I think it makes really easy the life of the recycler. So it's totally positive. There is one problem, if you allow me to speak on 2 minutes, because in the previous slide, you speak about the transportation, insulation, etc. I think, as I told you before, the battery world is not an island. It's living in an ecosystem for recycling, control of emission, protection of the worker, transportation. And today, there is in parallel some regulation which is in workshop. I can tell you why, because between 2006 and 2013, I was delegated by battery producer and battery recycler to be expert observatory near United Nations Committee for Shipment of Hazardous Waste. And I was in the section of batteries. All the battery collected today in the supermarket, etc. Today is very, very smooth. But in 2010, 11, it was absolutely complicated, because you have mixed batteries with nickel cadmium, with alkaline batteries, with lithium batteries. So it was a nightmare to make all the world delegation to be in harmony. And then with Dr. Fricke from Germany, we were designed as scientific and technical to propose scientific and neutral, because it's a cost for the battery and for the municipality, etc., to propose a regulation for the best safe packaging of waste batteries. It was finally adopted, is named Provision 906 and Provision 903.
For the critically damaged batteries,
yeah. And today, until September 2023, I withdraw from this commission because I am now more operator, so I don't have a conflict of interest. But I receive always the information, and I discovered that in September 2023, they are still speaking about how to ship damaged power lithium batteries. Power lithium batteries. So if the organization of battery producer, battery recycler, EV recycler, if they don't send representative, I think one day they receive a regulation made by people who make the control of asbestos, they make the control of compressed gas like oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen. People who's looking on the top, on the above.
Yeah.
If we are not represented, we could have a very, very nice surprise.
I will propose that one of the next webinars we touch upon this topic of transportation and packaging as well. I think it could be a long discussion, but thanks also for touching upon these points that we haven't discussed today. And brief comments also from Nuria, Axel, and Tobias. What kind of information do you think would be useful for your businesses in Battery Passport?
I go first. You said my name. Okay.
Yes,
I think for us is not only a benefit but also an obligation, because we are in the middle, right? We receive batteries from OEMs, which means we will get some additional information, which is definitely a benefit, again, when things get standard and you also have something behind that supports your claimings, that will facilitate. But we also need to provide information at Second Life battery repurposers, and that's still not very well defined in this regulation and in this battery passport. For example, the carbon footprint, apparently we are not forced to provide any carbon footprint. I think things will change a lot, but we also see the consequences of having to report absolutely everything and having to align our internal systems with this battery passport. And we are a small company. So, but indeed, it's for the benefit of the entire ecosystem, as Farouk was saying. This is an ecosystem, and there has to be something that forces us to work together.
Thank you, Nuria. And Axel?
Yeah, I think Battery Passport will be, of course, something that will help us a lot. I think it's a concept that we might throw too many functions on sometimes, because you want to have all the documents to be able to do a shipment. As you mentioned, MSDS, you want to have the state of health, you want to have carbon tracking, and so on and so forth. But my hopes is that we actually make it simple, so we don't add on too many data points that is required for a battery passport. Because if we do it too complex for any users to use it, that would translate into complex processes, which can translate into cost that will put on an end customer. So my hopes is that it will be simple to report whomever we have to report to, and it's easy to use and contain necessary information to do a transfer.
Yeah, and I guess if it's not so simple, then well, Tobias and I will have work to do. We'll have business to explain well, if it's too complex. But I would prefer that it's simple enough for everyone to figure it out and with their partners. Would you like to add something, Tobias, on this topic, or?
Basically, I think it will ease the relation with battery holders and authorities when applicable. And also, it's important regarding the EPR questions. I know I've talked a lot about EPR, but when the status of the battery changes to waste battery, the responsibility shifts to the producer and then to producer responsibility organization. And you need to be aware of that. And that comes back to waste criteria and the end of waste status and the unclarities regarding this. So it also affects the battery passport in that kind of sense.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I think a good summary of this. And now I would like to open the floor for questions from the audience. I've seen already some, but please feel free to raise your hand or drop a comment in that on chat. I've seen questions from Stephen Lance. Maybe Stephen, do you mind if I welcome you to join us also with your camera and microphone to ask your question with us? Can you hear us, Stephen? I think I asked you to join. Maybe you're with us already.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Stephen, thanks for joining. Can you introduce yourself? Say, who do you represent? Or maybe you just represent yourself.
Yeah, Stephen Lans, back to battery and trying to a startup for battery recycling or black mass recycling, and happy to be in this call or in this seminar. And thank you for the valuable discussions and information. And as I was typing in the chat, most of my questions have been answered or could not be answered. For instance, how to measure state of health, SoH, SOCE, or SOCR. I think there's still some, everybody wants to know the process parameters, how it should be standardized. So that's it.
Okay, then I guess the questions were answered. So that's good. Then we are still. Feel free to raise your hands for the participants or drop your comments. And I can see that we have Nicolas is back. So maybe just in the meantime, I will ask also how, in your perspective, the battery passport could be improving the way of your business, doing your activities.
Yeah, sorry, my internet connection, even at the office, just pulled me out, and I'm not an IT expert, so it has been quite a challenge to be back. But anyway, so the battery passport, definitely we need to be, and we have to be transparent with our customers from an OEM. So as I said already, currently we are sharing all the information that we can collect from the batteries, and not only information, but fresh and up-to-date information to make sure that we reassure them on what they will receive from us. The passport could be interesting to support our customers to have a one way of communication of data and to support them and to understand what is the story behind the numbers. Because we need to understand the data. It can be complex. So for me to have one standard passport could be interesting especially for our customers, I think, if they work with different.
So do you already have some application that you are using? Are you piloting this with someone or not yet?
No, what we do currently is that we got a specific and excellent partners working on the test before validating and shipping the batteries, and we called it the battery test report. So it's kind of our own passport, battery passport that we can provide to our customer currently to make sure that we are transparent with them, and they
for
know.
Now you have your own passport, kind of.
Yeah, exactly. We deserve to share data with our customers. So.
Thank you, Nicolas. And now, Vinayak, I've seen your question, and I think you are already with us online. Would you like to ask this question?
Yeah. So myself, Vinayak Kulkarni. I'm PhD student at Imperial College, London, working on battery passports. So my question is, as per the current system, when the car gets scrapped, it has to go to the authorized treatment facility, that is ATF, and then ATF will get that scrapped batteries, and now they have to deal with it. But in the battery regulation, I didn't came across like any specific role of ATF and how they will play or ensure the waste, how they are going to dispose the waste batteries from the electric cars. So, your any opinion on that?
Maybe Axel, would you have some
I think,
thought on this?
yeah, of course. It's funny. This is mostly mentioned with customers in the UK. So I don't know if that's very well mentioned in there, because we speak quite not too much about it. We sometimes have to do the assumption that people handling the batteries are capable enough of deciding if this is good battery or not. And also what Farouk talked about, this, the preparation for second life. Currently is quite vague what that entails. I think checking is actually one of the requirements, whatever that would mean. So I think it's a wait and see situation on how we need to define them and how we enter batteries into the second life market.
Does this answer your question, Vinayak?
Yeah, partially. Yeah, but how? I mean, once they own, like, let us say the battery car is being shipped, electric car is being shipped to the ATF. So now the ATF owner owns that battery, and now ATF owner can sell that battery to Second Life or recyclers, or uh, it's not allowed. So how that will go? Who will own that battery? The ATF owners or not?
Maybe that could be a question to Nicolas. Do you know how do you work? Do you collaborate with ATFs? Because you have a collaboration with Indra, for example, in France, right?
Exactly. Yeah, we got a collaboration with Indra, and Renault keeps the ownership of the battery if we don't sell it for second life. So even Indra, when they put battery on safety from accident, airbag are being open, Renault keeps the ownership of the battery until the recycling has been done. And if we sell a battery for second life, we agree with the customer that they will take the ownership of the battery and will have to manage the recycling. But we definitely propose this service to our customers, as we got already a specific partnership with a recycler. So we know how to manage that. So long story short, if we don't sell for second life, we keep the ownership of the battery. And if we sell the battery for second life, we transfer the ownership of the battery to our customers. So they will have to manage the recycling stage journey. But we can propose it to them.
Meaning that the customer in this example, Indra, they would have to manage this themselves, or when
this one, Indra do put battery under safety for Renault. So they do. It's a service for Renault. So Renault keeps the ownership of the battery.
Okay.
We ask Indra. Yeah, sorry.
Which I believe is not necessarily the case for all OEMs, right? Because I think Renault is quite a more, let's say, has more experience with and authorized treatment facilities than some other OEMs, which, as far as I know, some of them, they are not tracking that much what happens with their batteries. And an example is, I guess, Axel knows this probably too well that they have some OEMs have no idea where the cars are. Right?
As I said, safety is definitely not part of the priorities, but the first point of the priorities. So we want to know where are all of our batteries. And even if we ask our key strategic partners as Indra to put batteries under safety, we keep the ownership of the battery and we track and chase until the final stage of recycling. So
right. I hope, Vinayak, that this answers your question better.
Yeah. Thank you.
Maybe, thank you. And we have another question from Włodzimierz. Let me also invite you to the room. Now you should have got the, you're with us, I think. Can you turn on your microphone and camera?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, and
welcome.
The camera as well. Hello. Good question, similar to what Steven asked about. Do we have the definitions already? Because anytime I hear about someone measuring the number of cycles, is question myself, okay, how they are counted, how they are defined. Do we know anything about it? Because we said they're gonna be reported through BMS access, right?
Yeah, maybe again, I would direct this question to Nicolas. Do you have some practice in this certification that you provide to customers?
Certification is, sorry, my speaker interrupted briefly. Certification for repurposing or for recycling?
Włodzimierz asked about the reporting of number of cycles. So how do you provide these numbers also to your customers about how many cycles the batteries had, and how do you measure this?
Yeah, part of our battery test report, there are some data which explains the previous life of the batteries and definitely how the battery can work today. So I don't have it especially in mind today, but we got information about the SoH is part of it, and we got a batch of information. So I cannot tell you exactly, but we include as much as we can data on it.
Thank you, Nicolas. Is that answering your? Does it answer your question, Włodzimierz? Maybe Axel can complement on this.
No, but a really good question. First of all, because looking back and the metrics that we normally use is mileage. But if we're starting with this vehicle to grid solutions and using your internal battery in an EV car, maybe mileage will not be sufficient anymore. So I think cycles is be very important to measure and keep if it's going to be with the reporting or battery passport and so on. So really good question.
Thanks, Axel. And Nuria, you also have something to say about this?
I just wanted to add about it's kind of a philosophical question. What is a cycle? It's very hard to define whether a cycle is every time you switch from charge to discharge, even if you didn't complete. Is it the amount of full energy? Is it considering the depth of discharge? It's very, very hard to determine how to measure what is considered a full cycle in a battery. This is why currently we use mileage mostly, and any let's say extreme events. It's something that is also reported. But cycles, I think we first need to agree on what is a cycle. Again, I'm sorry, I'm claiming for standards constantly, but what is SoH, what is a cycle, and once we agree on how we define those metrics, then we can report on those metrics. But I think everybody measures here differently, so it doesn't provide a big information if you get that data, because still you don't know how they count it, let's say.
So I'm guessing we start with something and then we see how this works, probably, right? We start just measuring the fact and then we see, okay, what's the correlation between state of health and, because you can kill the battery in 2 years with fast charging, or you can do 1 million kilometers on your Tesla with low energy top-ups, right?
Włodzimierz, I think your last sentence was probably the best summary of this. We start with something and then we see how it goes.
All right, thanks.
I think we've had quite a good discussion on many of these topics. We hope that this was useful for all participants. And we will be wrapping up now. We had planned before some networking session, but we'll skip it this time, and hopefully next time we plan it to put more time on this. And the next time actually is already there, the opportunity for you to join us in the next webinar in the series. It will be this time on battery testing methods. So also we'll bring some research perspective on how to do the testing. You can go on our platform and also save the date. We will announce the speakers and more details about the content soon. And that's it. Thank you very much to all the speakers, all the experts, and also participants for great questions. And we hope to see you again on the community platform and in the next short circuit event.
And Piotr, if I may, just on the battery testing, I think there are two main parameters. Part of the rest is technical and quality aspect. Definitely the question about the cycles, SoH are keys, but we need to include also the quality test of the batteries. If it's looking good, where does it come from? If it has been dismantled properly from the car, how it has been moved from point A to point B. Quality, it's also, we don't have to focus only on technical cycles and SoH, but qualities and aspects of the batteries.
And I think for that would be also a good topic to discuss next time. Hopefully also maybe with some representatives of Renault or Skoda. Yeah. Then again, thank you very much. We'll still stay on the line for a couple more minutes if you still want to join, but you are all speakers and also participants are free to leave at any time, since we planned this event until
just
6:30.
Piotr, just a quick comment after the word of Nicolas. Nicolas, yeah. I fully agree with him. And as we are in BatteReverse, we need to speak about the deliverable and the result, etc., weighted by BatteReverse. And I can tell you that we are developing. We are ready patent in July, so we cannot. We received the results report of the patent. There is now anteriority, but until we enter in European instruction, we cannot disclose. But I can tell you that we are ready to apply a patent, taking account of your remark, and we have developed a technology which is non-invasive technology. This means that we don't use any milliamps of the batteries, but we have the interfacial state of charge and state of health. So it will be one important deliverable and also the good news is that we have identified the company who can build the device. It's already working on another field, but they have all the competency in Germany to build the device. So at the end, we will have the technology, and maybe even if it's over budget, we will do it in the project, and we will have first prototype, which is working, unfortunately, at 48 volts only, not on the pack. But it's a first step. So just maybe we keep in touch, Nicolas, because there is a lot of things to do.
Definitely, please. Yeah, because we have to keep in mind that the battery comes from cars. I don't know if you already seen a car, a battery dismantled from a car. It does not look good. It does not look good.
We do it for car of Renault. Your colleague can tell you. We do it car for 2012 because you are also the pioneer. And one thing, if you allow me 2 minutes, very important. We are speaking about the cell, the second life, the cell, the module. But we have made an experience which is not very well known with Renault. I have all the evidence I can show you. Renault think about the end of life of the batteries, but the non-active component, not only the cells. There is very expensive plastic, resource, energy, and they are not active, but they are specific, plug and support, etc. Renault send us the pictures in Recupil and before tech Recupil. They send us the pictures and they said, we want you keep non-destructive dismantling and you keep safe those spare parts. And what we did, a very unique experience, the big pack, the big box for shipment, when take the batteries, we fill it with the spare part. So this is a really circular economy and sustainability.
Exactly.
And I can send you the archive if you want, just to show that it could be done not only on the cell, but the cost and the energy, the plastic, the resource conservation is also around the batteries. And don't forget that, depend on the technology, 35% of the composition of the pack is non-active component, but mandatory component. Thank you. Sorry to make you late, but it was very important.
No, good point, Farouk. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Farouk. In the meantime, also other colleagues joined us. Marie, would you like to also introduce yourself in this networking part? Can you also turn on your camera?
Exactly, yes. I'm trying to, oh, hi, you can see me, I think. Hi. Yeah, thank you everyone, by the way, for the webinar. Maybe I can actually introduce myself very quickly and actually have a question for those of you who are still here right now. So yeah, I'm Marie Duffier, so I'm a consultant working on many battery projects as of now, a lot on circularity, by the way. So we have a lot of clients in this field, dismantlers, even let's say players in the hydrometallurgy part. So yeah, this is a bit what we're doing at the moment. And I come myself from the research and development field. I'm worked many years in the production of cathode materials before joining as a consultant. So that's for the background. Yeah, just I wanted to come back maybe to the topic of the EPR cost that you briefly talked about, and maybe that was just more of a general comment from my side, but I'm sure you can also contribute to this. I'm just wondering in the end what kind of effect it could have on the end consumers. Let me expand a little bit. In a recent project, I worked on the whole scheme for recycling mattresses, for instance. And of course, there's an EPR scheme in place. I have the case of France in mind in particular. What happens is that the producers of mattresses, in the end, they find a way to charge back the EPR fee to the end customers. So us, as customers, when we buy a mattress, we are the ones really paying for the fee. I'm just wondering, for batteries, what kind of effect it could have. Imagine that now the cell producers are charging back this fee on the end consumers. A lot of people cannot afford EV cars already, and I don't know how expensive it could get and what kind of effect it could have on these people. Could you comment maybe a little bit on this? Very curious to hear your perspective.
Probably the customers will never know, I guess, if they are paying extra because of this or because of something else. But maybe our industrial partners have some thoughts on this.
No, but I think you're completely right, Marie. It's gonna translate to cost in the end to the end customer. It's gonna be tricky though to see who's the end customer if you're looking at this, depending on sort of where you sit in this network. But yeah, it's gonna be cost in the end, unfortunately.
I want to say that there are already EPR schemes in place for batteries, but it's just going to be on a much larger scale now with the electrification and the EV battery revolution, you can say. So yeah, it's going to be transferred to customer in the end.
And speaking about the EPR schemes, I know that there are two main ways how the OEMs they pay for their responsibility. So I guess one is when you pay upfront when you introduce the batteries to the market, but there is another option to pay per collected number of batteries. I just know that Febel Auto is the dismantler network which practices the second option. So basically they charge producers at the end of the year per number of batteries collected, per number of cars collected from the market for the certificates of destruction issued. Do you have any idea what is the preferred option for the OEMs, for example? How do you do it, Nicolas, now?
I'm sorry, Piotr, I didn't get. I've been. I received
no worries.
John, if you can just.
I was just asking. As Renault, for the EPR to pay, let's say for the a collection of batteries, do you pay per batteries collected every year, or do you pay upfront for the batteries introduced to the market?
This is definitely a question for Vincent. He's an expert on and he's leading the logistic flow from our warehouse per region to the dealership. So unfortunately, Piotr,
maybe then no
worries. I'm not the one on that, unfortunately. Sorry.
Maybe then I can forward this to Axel or Tobias. Do you have some idea from the Nordics?
On Axel?
Yeah, just
sorry. Go ahead.
No, interesting. I mean, we're always seeing this as with the assumption that recycling is going to come with a cost. But what will happen if the recyclers getting really good processes and actually will pay you quite a lot of money, and OEMs will need to pay for them to get them back, to meet the quota with 16% recycled material and so on and so forth. So we can't predict the future, but it's what will happen when should that be a revenue share in the end then instead? So maybe that's a comment to this as well.
Okay, thanks.
Well, I can say in Sweden it depends also on this different sort of batteries. For example, for producers of lead acid batteries, they pay a producer responsibility fee for this. The fee is formulated by SEK per kilogram, and the same sort of fee applies to source of all lead acid batteries. And the collection and handling of batteries from cars is financed through a zero-sum agreement that has been concluded between car manufacturers and importers and a big actor called Stina Recycling. Basically, it works as a sort of kind of joint venture kind of a thing, where they go together and finance the economical and organizational responsibilities.
But just one general comment, which is really important for the batteries. The battery producer and the cathode producer like Lady and the anode producer, etc., they have to be aware that in engineers, in the middle, there is genius. They pass from 23% of full cobalt to 0% of the cobalt today with iron phosphate. And also, they pass from 6.5% of the lithium to 0% of the lithium in sodium-ion batteries. So they must be aware that lower is the value content in the batteries, higher they have to pay the service. And if you look something, the asbestos today, you have to pay 2,000 euro per ton to eliminate safely the asbestos. And the PCB is fully loaded with heavy metal. Each metal is toxic, but you are paid by 60% of the gold content for the PCB. So you have to take in mind this equation. Lower is the value due to the intensive research. You make the economy when you make your batteries because iron and phosphor cost nothing. You make the economy, it's very good. Your battery will be competitive, but at the end, you have to pay. And it's for this that for low value batteries, second life is critical because once you circulate the batteries, you, I don't know how you displace the critical date of recycling and then you have to pay. Oh, this is a balance.
Yeah.
Definitely, I cannot say better, Farouk. Repurposing currently is key. But for recycling currently, we we lose everything, even on the financial and environment aspect. Currently, the supplies, I mean, the chains on recyclings are not already where we need to be currently. Our partners and others actors on recycling are doing a fantastic job, but there is already so much batteries that the batteries that we put currently for recycling are not recycled as we wish and want to be. Just matter of times, we are putting so much energy investment on that. But that's why currently, if you do the calculation, 2 columns repurposing and recycling, calculation is easier. Repurposing, even the environment, because you divide by 2 the impact of the battery when it's being created, and you reduce the cost by X%. So repurposing is definitely the boulevard to go now for all aspects, environment and financial. And this also is an opportunity for all OEMs and actors on energy storage to wait the moment and the period when recycling will be at the level that we need to use for recycling batteries, for the black mass, for nickel and cobalt. Currently, if you, I'm pretty sure that at Renault and also OEMs, there are some batteries select as waste and could be used again in storing system, and to wait again 5 or 10 years until it is a great moment and the appropriate moment to recycle the battery. So we need to find it must be another way to keep the batteries until when it will make sense to recycle.
Oh, thanks again for changes. I think we can wrap it up here. That's fine. Also, I can see that some of you are still in the offices, and we don't want to keep one in the offices until such a late time. So if everyone is fine, I suggest that we end the stream. And thank you again for joining.
Thanks for the event, and have a great evening.
Thanks very much for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.